All right. Good morning or afternoon. Well, good morning to those that live on the West Coast. Actually, most of you. Um, since this week Parsha deals with the Shema, the first two paragraphs at least, I thought for today's Siddur class or the prayer class, we'll talk about the Shema. A couple insights according to Kabbalah. According to Chassidus, I don't really know much Kabbalah on it, but Chassidus, I think I know a little bit. So it's the Shema, the quintessential prayer, the prayer that we say before we pass away, the prayer that we should say twice a day. Actually, we say it 5 times a day. The obligation is 2 times a day, but if you follow the Siddur every single day, you'll say it 5 times a day, corresponding to the 5 levels of the soul. We can do a lot of things 5 times a day, most notably the Kaddish. Actually, the Kaddish we do 5 times each prayer. A lot of Kaddishes. The Shema, first off, just to look at the words of the Shema, you see over here, and I think it's more, what is going on? You see over here, if you look inside the Torah, you'll see that the Ayin and the Dalid are much larger. When they write out the Shema, this is not what it looks like in the Torah, but this was just a quick example that I found. The Ayin and the Dalid are much larger. Why are they much larger? Well, the words themselves, the letters themselves, when combined, is the word aid, which is a witness. We're bearing witness that God is one. There is no other God. Not only is there no other God, there's nothing outside of God, and we'll get into that, which plays well with another part of the another section in the Torah, in this week's Torah portion, the part of Aleinu, which I'll talk about in a second. So we have, you're bearing witness. You should look at the first line, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You should look at it. You see the Ayin and the Dalet are very big, and we cover our eyes. Why do we cover our eyes? According to, well, in everything, there's an external reason and an internal reason. We'll call Chatzenius and Panemius. Just like you have a body and you have a soul. So the external reason, the more superficial reason, I shouldn't say superficial, the more physical, materialistic reason is that we won't be distracted. It is the most important prayer of the day, and so we cover our eyes, and so we won't see anything that we shouldn't see, and we can stay focused on it. That's number one. A deeper reason, what are we saying over here? We're saying that there's nothing else besides God. Shema Yisrael, listen, Jew. Havaya, Yud, and Hey, and Vav, and Hey, the name that expresses God's essence. Elokeinu, that's our God. Havaya, Yud, Hey, and Vav, and Hey, that level, that name of God, that level of God, Echad, is one. There ain't nothing else. And the Echad, if you look at the letters Aleph, Ches, and Daled, Aleph means one. Aleph is one, refers to the number one, right? In Gematria, it corresponds to the number one, meaning he's one. In the Ches, in the 7 heavens and in the earth, meaning all the spiritual worlds and the physical world. And even within the physical world, the Dalet is the number 4, north, east, south, and west. In other words, anywhere in existence, all there is Havaya. That's all there is. It's just God and his essence. There's nothing else. That's what it's saying. There is nothing else besides God. Problem is, as we've been saying the last few days, if you look outside, you see a world. You don't have to look outside. Just look at yourself. Just look down. You'll see there's a world. So we cover our eyes because even though there's we're making this statement that there is only God, and we look out and we see that we see a physical world, something that which seemingly, hides over God. It could mess us up. Yeah, it could, maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. I'm not saying something truthful. So we cover our eyes to know that what I see, it might not necessarily be true. Even though I see multiplicity and I see division, It's not exactly true. We know, or we appreciate, or we have faith at least, that there really is nothing else besides God. The question is whether we really exist. Are we really here? And because of that, we cover our eyes. I don't know if you guys knew that. So, what else do we see over here? I don't know, something cool. Letters in the Torah are, God creates the world through speech. In speech, there are letters, right? Letters make up words, and you speak words. And the world, think of the Matrix, the movie The Matrix. I'm not saying everything about the movie is accurate, but it's a very good metaphor for how God creates the world. In the movie The Matrix, everything is a computer simulation or a computer software. It's a computer simulation. What is behind everything in the computer? Zeros and ones. Everything behind software design, whatnot, are zeros and ones, combinations of zeros and ones. And that makes the combinations of those, the different combinations of those make up the game or make up the program. That is exactly how it works, how God creates the world. He has letters. He has 22 letters, and the combination of those letters form the physical, really form creation. So the letters, the words themselves are a blueprint for what is being created. Letters themselves are very holy, and so if you look over here, what's something interesting? Shema. I'll come back to that. But it's very important to know your Hebrew name or to know names of things in Hebrew, and that'll tell you the essence of the entity. For example, who gave names to everything, by the way? Adam, the first man, gave a name for everything. He was able to look at their essence, and he gave the name, he spoke the name, he said the name, and that's the name that we continue to today. Always a go-to is Kelev, which is a dog. It's always one that I always like and think about. Kelev, it makes up the word kulei lev. What did Adam see when he saw a dog? He said kulei lev. The dog is completely dominated by its heart, by its emotions. Kulei lev. So he called it a Kelev. Kulei lev. It's completely. That's why a dog can sense your emotions. I always found that if we had a neighbor that wasn't so friendly and so nice, the dog also wasn't so friendly and so nice. And if the neighbor was friendly and nice, the dog was also very friendly and nice. I don't know if anybody else had a similar experience. So the first level, the first line, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, refers to how God, there's nothing else besides God. The second line over here, the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vad, actually has the same number of words as the Shema Yisrael. They both have 6, and they both have the same number of letters, which is 25. When was this added? If you look inside this week's Torah portion, V'eschanan, you will not see this line. All you will see is Shema Yisrael, the first paragraph, and it goes right into the V'ahavta. So when did they add this Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Vad? Who added it, and when and why? It wasn't added until the second temple. The second Beis HaMikdash, the Sanhedrin added that little line. That line comes from Moses. Moses overheard a conversation during the giving of the Torah between a couple angels. They said, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Vad. And that refers to God's kingship. It refers to this world, or what's called Yehuda Tata. First line refers to Yehuda Ilah, and the second line refers to Yehuda Tata. What is that? What is that all about? The first line, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, there's nothing else besides God, means that there's nothing else besides God. It's called supernal unity. That really, the entire world is just a extension of God's essence. However, in this world, we see a world. Bereshis bara Elokim. God created a world, and this is the world that we live in. So there's something called a lower level unity. Yechude tata. Yechuda means unity. Tata means lower. The lower level unity. What's lower level unity in practical terms? A king and his people. A king can only be a king if he has people. You can't be, and those people have to accept your kingship. You cannot be a king over ants or flies or dogs, because they're not going to. They don't understand what they're doing. They can't. You could be a dictator, but you can't be a king. A king is that the people come together and they declare that you are a king and we will follow what you say. Now there's something separate. They must be a separate entity. A person cannot be a king, a truly separate entity. A person can't be a king over his children, or according to the Torah, can't be a king over your children, or even somebody who really truly appreciates your qualities. It's like that's kind of a difficult concept to grasp. But in other words, if somebody like naturally wants to honor you, they naturally, in other words, someone who can really truly appreciate you, that's not really what's called kingship. They just have tremendous respect for you and they will serve you because they see the value of serving you, but not necessarily is that kingship. Kingship is when there is no comprehension whatsoever of how great the king really is, and nevertheless I subdue my will to do what you would like, not in a negative sense, in a positive sense. The king will raise you up higher. That is this world. Baruch Shem Kivin Malchus Olam Vad. The angels were saying about this world, that what a tremendous opportunity the people have in this world, and that they will. It literally means Baruch Shem Kived Malchus. Blessed is his honored name and his kingship forever. That may the people do the will of their king. That even though they see the king, they don't appreciate the king, and they're a separate entity, nevertheless, how blessed are they that they're able to serve the king? Now, what is a little bit, let's just spell this out a little bit more, like what exactly happened? Why didn't they didn't make this, they didn't add this as part of the Shema until the second Beis Hamikdash. So what did we say beforehand? Before the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash, the second temple, we say Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, and we go right into V'ahavta. Because we were on such a spiritual level, we had such a spiritual appreciation, we understood who God was, that we were able to accept this whole God's unity, the upper level unity, and that God was one and there was nothing else. And we were able to go right into the V'ahavta, which talks about what we should do. Now that we have that information, what do you do with it, right? We don't believe in just having information for the sake of information. We believe using information. Gemara asks, what is greater, Torah or mitzvahs? And the Gemara answers, Torah, because it leads to mitzvahs. In other words, you want the Torah, so that mitzvahs, it's all about mitzvahs. The Torah, you want to have, so seemingly you don't have to learn so much Torah. Well, first of all, you'll have what's called a chayas. You'll have a life. You'll give life to your mitzvahs. And when you do mitzvahs, when you do something with energy, the Gemara calls it, not the Gemara, Chassidus calls it wings. They're like wings that bring that carry your words of Torah or your mitzvahs. They carry them up to Shemayim before the throne. So you have to learn Torah. But the whole point of Torah is in order to do mitzvahs. In other words, the point of the information is really to carry it out. Now, there's value in studying Torah in and of itself. It's absolutely true. However, it says a person that says, all I have is Torah, he has nothing, says the Torah. Same Torah that talks about how great Torah is. If you say, all I have is Torah, I have nothing else, I don't have mitzvahs, I don't have anything else, you don't even have Torah, because it's all about doing the mitzvahs. Now, what happened was, first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and we moved to Bavel. Babylonia, and Bavel itself means confusion. Babel is confusion. The Babel means to be confused, and we kind of lost that special sensitivity, that spiritual sensitivity, which is reflected in the fact that the ark, the Aron Kodesh, was not placed in the Kodesh HaGadashim, was not in the Kodesh HaGadashim, the Holy of Holies, during the entire second period of the temple. Nor was the Urim and Tubim, the breastplate that gave the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, Nevuah, prophecy, clairvoyancy, to be able to tell the Jewish people what to do and when to battle. That was also missing. That wasn't there. Where was it, you say? It was buried underneath in a secret chamber underneath the temple. But let me tell you something interesting. Was it really buried? Was it hidden? Is it hidden? Is it was it placed in a safe? It's like this. The ark, you cannot move the ark from its place. You're not allowed to do that. It says when the temple, when Moses was teaching the Torah about how to make the Mishkan, and ultimately when there will be a Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim, Moses taught us from the Torah that once the ark is placed where it's supposed to be, it cannot move from that place. Otherwise, a great plague will happen. Whatever, it's a problem. It's a mitzvah not to move it. So how could they move it? Well, you might say, well, they had to move it because they knew the Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed. The king knew that the first Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed, and then people were going to try to take it. But wait a minute. If that's the case, if he moved it into another place and never brought it back, how could they build a second temple and perform all the mitzvahs? You cannot, unless the Aron Kodesh, unless the ark is in its place, you cannot build the second Beis Hamikdash. You cannot perform the service of the second temple. You cannot go into the Kodesh Kodeshim. So then the Kohen Gadol would go into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, and he would die if he wasn't proper, like what happened towards the end of the second Beis Hamikdash. What do you mean? What holiness is there? There's no ark there. The novelty of this, the explanation is as follows. There are two places where the Aron Kodesh can be. In times of peace, Moses taught, you put it in the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodashim. But when it's not a time of peace, or when the Jewish people are not holding on the level that they should be, it goes into another place. And that's exactly where it was placed the entire time during the second Beis Hamikdash, and it is still there. And says the Arizal. Most people think that where's the ark? By the Dome of the Rock. Says the Arizal, no, it's actually right in front of the Kotel. Right in front of the Kotel. He didn't say where or if he knows exactly where, but he said, according to my calculation, it's right in front of the Kotel, right in front of the Western Wall. So where we pray, in front of the Western Wall, according to the Arizal, and that's, as a Chabad Chassid, I accept the opinion of the Arizal, you're praying right in front of the Kodesh. You're praying right in front of the Ark. Now, the Ark is somewhere deep down, and who knows? I mean, there's many excavations going on, and we see that there are a tremendous number of tunnels, and it's complex. So it's somewhere in there, but it is not in a vault by the government as seen on Indiana Jones. So Baruch Shem Kavod was brought in the second Beis Hamikdash because we were holding by a different level. Most Torah, when do we get the most? Every time we go into Galus, every time we do a chet. Chet literally means, it's often translated as a sin, but chet actually means to go down. I think I spoke about it a few months ago when I spoke about what was the chet et hadas. What was really the sin of Adam and Eve? They really didn't sin. They did everything on purpose, and God had tremendous pleasure from it. There was no sin of the tree of knowledge and evil. Sin, the word for sin there are other words for sin, avoin, but certainly not chet. Chet does not literally mean sin. It means to go down. So anytime we do a chet, we go down in a level, sin, so to speak, to borrow the term, a much greater revelation of Torah is revealed. Where did we see that? When's the first time that happened? Right when Moses broke the luchos. When he broke the first tablets, he broke them, and everyone's like, "Oh man!" Then he went back up and got a second set of tablets, but he himself had to write it out. God didn't write it for him. And together with that came the oral tradition. And in other words, there was a greater revelation of Torah, which there was actually a tremendous joy when Moses came down with the second tablets. Not just because God forgave us on Yom Kippur. That's one thing that there's a tremendous joy. But the even greater joy, the one that was really appreciated by the people at the time, was there was an even greater revelation of Torah. There was more Torah to be. God had to, so to speak more and tell us more and explain things, because we weren't holding by that level, the original level, by design, I must say. Every time we go down a level, we're not holding by we're not like a spiritual giant of the previous generation. There's more revelation, therefore more revelation of Torah, more explanation is needed. And because there's more explanation that's needed, there's a greater joy. There's more Torah revealed. That's why Chassidus has been revealed only so, seemingly Chassidus should have been given thousands of years ago, but no, because we're on such a poor spiritual state, only the strongest medicine is going to take care of the weakest person, so to speak. So Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuso Le'olam Vad was introduced after the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, when the Jewish people were at a lower spiritual level, they had less spiritual sensitivity. But there's a tremendous joy in the fact that we now say it, because now we understand that there's something called Yehuda Tata, that there's really also within this world, God is here, even within this world, and there are insights to learn from this pasuk. Why do we say it quietly? We also say it quietly because Moses overheard the conversation. Moses didn't want to tell the angels that he had heard what they were talking about. So we say it very quietly. As is, I know a little secret. Also, another explanation is because it's not in the right order, right? This is not how it's written in the Torah, so we say it a little quietly. But when do we say it out loud? We say it out loud on Yom Kippur. Why on Yom Kippur? Because we're like angels. We don't fast on Yom Kippur because we're sad. We're not sad. It's a tremendously joyous day. In fact, Gemara says there are no, which 2 days are the most joyous days in the Jewish calendar? Tu B'Av, which will happen in 3 days, and Yom Kippur. Why those 2 days? Well, if you haven't taken my pop quiz yet, I gave you the answer, but I just gave you the answer. But what's the explanation for that? Why is Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur? Let me just finish the thing about Yom Kippur. Why do we say it in Yom Kippur? Because we're holding like angels, and therefore we can say it out loud. We fast on Yom Kippur because it's such a holy day, it's such a spiritual day. So we dress in white. We're like angels, and therefore, because we're holding the level of angels, very spiritually sensitive, we have tremendous divine consciousness, appreciation of divine consciousness, we can say it out loud without any problem. In fact, we say it 3 times out loud. We say it out loud every time we say the Shema, and then right during Ne'ilah, towards the end of Yom Kippur, which is the holiest time of Yom Kippur, right? The end of the day is the holiest day. Shabbos afternoon is holier than Friday night. We say it 3 times out loud. Why is Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, and Yom Kippur the 2 happiest days? Because it goes along the theme that we're talking about. Something called Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah. Every single time a person falls, spiritually, a tremendous ascent will follow. Yerida means descent. L'Tzorech, for the necessity. L'Aliyah, for an ascent. The ascent, the ascent that follows a descent is a greater ascent than a person who's just, status quo and then does an ascent. Just like light, you appreciate light so much more after it follows darkness. Yeah, if you're in a lit room and then they make it a little bit brighter, okay, great, it's a little bit brighter. Shine a flashlight during the daytime, okay, I can see the light, but the light is not as appreciated. You don't appreciate the light as much as if you're in a very dark room and you turn on that light. So what happened on Tu B'Av? Well, every year after the spies happened, after the spies came out with their bad report, and the Jews said we don't want to go in the land of Israel, and God said, fine, you're not going to go in the land of Israel, you're going to die in the desert. Every year on Tisha B'Av, the Jewish people would there would be a group of Jewish people that would die. And in fact, on Tisha B'Av, they would dig graves, and everyone would sleep in the grave, and some people didn't wake up. And that went on for 40 years. That happened every Tisha B'Av on the 9th of Av. And then came the 40th year. Everyone went to sleep on Tisha B'Av, and everybody woke up. And they said, "Oh, maybe we miscalculated." So they went to sleep again on Tisha B'Av. What they thought maybe was Tisha B'Av, but really it was the 10th of Av. And they woke up. And they said, maybe we really did miscalculate. Until it came the 15th of Av. Every 15th of the month is a full moon. They knew for sure it was the 15th. And then they knew for sure that we're going to die, that whoever was going to die had already died, and all of us are going to go into the land of Israel. So there was a tremendous joy that the light that came from such a dark period. In other words, the Tisha B'Av was so great that people had such, imagine the joy that like, oh, I'm actually going to live, and I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to go into the land of Israel. There were other great things that happened on Tu B'Av. Shidduchim happened, marriage, matchmaking happened on Tu B'Av, but that on a very external, explanation of why Tu B'Av is the happiest, and why is Tisha B'Av the happiest? Very simply, it's like the light that follows the darkness. That throughout the whole entire year we did things that were what's called bilti ritzuyim, not the right things, not the things that God wants. And then what happens on Yom Kippur, when you take advantage of it properly, everything's washed away. It's a clean slate, and you can start anew and afresh. And God has full confidence in you, and I'm here to help you, and I've given everything you need. I've given more than what you need, and I know you're going to take advantage of it. So you can imagine the tremendous joy that a person feels at the end of Yom Kippur, not just because he can eat, but because, no, I'm just kidding. Really, the advantage of the spiritual state that a person is in, and what can come from there. So that was the answer. That's what's happening on Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is happening on Shabbos, I think. Today's the 12th, Wednesday, 12, 13, 14, 15, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. So on Shabbos will be Tu B'Av. How great is that? Shabbos is the happiest day of the week, day of pleasure. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
What's up, man?
This, just came to mind now that you were mentioning that. Is what does Hasidus have to say about all these holidays falling on Shabbat? Like Rosh Chodesh was on Shabbat, and that was pretty crazy. It was like double energies.
Oh, and way more going on over there. Yeah, the Shabbat. Shabbos is the end of a parsha. Yeah, that was tremendous. What does Hasidus have to say on a day like that? Well, it depends on which holiday it is, and it's the ultimate. Basically, it depends which holiday you're talking about. Let's just say Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbos, which it has in the past. It happens. That Chassidus says is a foretaste of Mashiach, because we know that on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av will turn into a joyous day when Mashiach comes, and the fact that we on the 9th of Av celebrate on the 9th of Av that falls on Shabbos, we're eating, we're drinking, and we're certainly not fasting. We're celebrating. We're having a great time. It says that's like a me'ain. It's like a ray of what it's going to be like when Mashiach comes. So it's a tremendously holy experience. It's so to speak. It transformed the day, a dark day, into the light that it really has. So it's a day to take advantage of.
In that case, Shabbat would override Tisha B'Av.
Yes. But why doesn't it do Yom Kippur? Why doesn't it? We still fast. Shabbos falls on Yom Kippur all the time. We still fast because it's not a sad day. Yom Kippur is a very happy day. It's called Shabbos Shabbosim. It's called the Shabbos of all Shabbos. It's a tremendous advantage. Yom Kippur is holier than Shabbos, it's a tremendous advantage of actually whether it's a holier than Shabbos, not necessarily, whatever, but there is a certain aspect to it that's holier than Shabbos. It elevates it. It's like a double elevation, so to speak. Like what's another day? Okay, let's say Shabbos falls Rosh Hashanah, which I think it did last year, right? Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos fell on the same time, one of the days. We don't blow the shofar because the Shabbos, whatever the shofar was trying to accomplish, what it accomplishes, which we'll speak about if you guys are still joining the classes. What the shofar accomplishes, Shabbos accomplishes for it. So we don't need to blow the shofar on Shabbos. It depends. You just need to like throw out the holidays. We won't go through them all right now, but yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay,
Yeah, Rabbi, quick question.
Yeah, sure.
So, is it true? I learned about, because I know because we're on the subject tefillah. When it comes to why we have double in the minyan, it's because it's all. Why do we have the double with the quorum? It's because we listen to the Meraglim. And because there was 10 Meraglim, and because you decided to listen to the 10 Meraglim, you're gonna have the way you have to connect to Hashem. Is with a minyan. And on the flip side, which is an incredible, beautiful thing, is that why the women are not counted for a minyan. It's because, why they're not, because they don't need a minyan. They're so that powerful and so connected to God. They just need, they can do it all by themselves. They don't need 10 men to double with a minyan because of the sin of the listen to the Meraglim. Is that true?
Everything you said is true. Yeah, everything you said is true. The women don't have to die with a minyan. Number one, they don't have because they have the Keich Bina. First of all, the women also didn't listen to the spies. I don't know if you know. But yeah, everything you said is true. It is true. There are different reasons. God said, I'm explicitly in the Torah. I am V'nikdashtem be'edasem. I'm holy through your Ada, through your community, and we know that community refers to how much is a community? A community is 10 because we see that by the Meraglim, by the spies. But I don't know if it's exactly only because of the Meraglim, because of the spies, but we know that what 10 is. But what you're saying is probably true. I just never seen it, but I'm sure you're right. To be honest, I've never actually seen that as like a tikkun, as like a rectification for the spies. It's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that. Women don't have to die with a minyan. A woman should still try to go to shul, by the way. The Rebbe very much, I don't know very much. The Rebbe encouraged women to go to shul and daven in shul and daven with a minyan, because there's a certain atmosphere you want to be in that atmosphere. It helps you daven, helps you pray. Yeah, being amongst other people, learning with another person is the same thing. Learning, if I learn this by myself, it doesn't. The effect it'll have upon me pales in comparison to if I learn it with two people or even more, like a group of people. That's the advantage of being in a class. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with davening as well. Anybody else? All right. Tonight is Mordechai Goodman, and I'll share with you what he's going to talk about. Everybody have a good day. Enjoy. And I know some of you I'm learning with today, so I'll see you soon. All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.